This video is designed to help you improve your kata gatame or your head and arm choke.
I'm going to try to get my head between my legs. It's not going to happen, but that's the intent.
I'm going to put my fist inside there this way here, and then modify my head and arm choke with a punch choke, where I put his hand on the ground and I put his elbow on my throat, tap, and get the wrist locked that way. What's up, guys? It's Eli here with Night Jiu-Jitsu. I'm here with my good friend Jeremy Bird. You might recognize him from some old videos we did, like what, 10 years ago?
Yeah, it's been 9.5 years.
It's been a long time. Since then, this gentleman has moved to Ocala, Florida, and opened up probably the most successful jiu-jitsu school in the area. Not just jiu-jitsu, MMA, submission grappling, like he's got a great kickboxing program. This dude's doing everything and he's doing it great. So that's where we are here. He was kind enough to have me down this weekend. I did a seminar today. We're going to some fights tonight to watch his guys represent. And anything else you want to say about your place before we get started on this?
I started at 31 years old in Paducah, Kentucky under Eli. And fortunately, I've been standing on the shoulders of giants ever since. With Eli being my first coach and instructor, I've had a few others. Obviously, Heath Pedigo and the whole Pedigo team is like my home guys, and that's who I love and who I'm with now. But Eli started this whole venture out for me, and for him to be back here today and him to watch the fights with us, big deal for me, and I really love it.
Yeah. So all that, and then but also we're going to do actually technique discussion on this. Anytime that I get around this guy, I always want to pick his brain. He's always got a really cool perspective on something. He always has a great group, and he's got a brilliant acumen for jiu-jitsu. So it's my duty to steal whatever I can from him detail-wise. And the things that I'm going to steal from him today is his perspective on the kata gatame, the head and arm choke.
So one of the big things for me is in general, to control mount, we always generally like having one elbow above the shoulder line at minimal. Both hands down, even if I do have an underhook, is not good enough for control. He can often get both hands to my hips and still make it work, even if it's in the overtied. This is still too much a lot of times. So building off this, I like keeping the elbow above the shoulder line the entire time. If I can, I will do the combination of paw and crawl, paw and crawl. Once I get here to a certain point, once this just went up far enough, I'm going to punch it across. And instead of me going right to the head and arm choke, I still like to get my grips on the armpit, but I like to wrap around, grab my own elbow, pull myself up. I get my chest on his face, and now as he moves and bucks around, I'm wide-based, and I'm going to be very hard to move off. So as he settles, let's buck one more time. As he bucks, he stops. Immediately, now I punch the floor one last time, and I trap his tricep with my chin. If I don't do this, he will just take the arm around, and it's gone. So I have to use my chin with a good connection. I bite on it, I hold it. Now I'm going to hand it off to this one as my whole body goes low. I want to try to get my head between my legs. It's not going to happen, but that's the intent. Now that I get here, he's going to always want to try to keep his arm back in the loop. He's going to want to try to swim this back in. My head is going to go into the floor, and it's going to stay in the floor, and I'm going to push through the floor with my head all the way until I get to ear-to-ear connection. So as I go down, I'm now going to drag my head through the armpit. I'll use my hand here. Also note, I'm going to get a really wide knee and take all my weight this way. I'm going to use my hand. I'm going to keep scraping my head. If he has pressure down on the elbow, I'm going to just hold off. If he's doing that, I'm just going to wait. Whenever he backs off again, I'm going to go. Whenever he pushes down again, I'm going to wait. And I just continue on that until I get here. Now I look at him, and I just squeeze my bicep. Yeah, still alive, barely. That's very tight. That's so very tight. And excellent points on that. I love how low Jeremy's keeping his head. So the things I picked up from whenever we were having this discussion before this video even started, the things I picked up from him is like where his head position goes, the depth of it, how he gets under the chin. All those things are such crucial details because those are the big things that people always have trouble with. A lot of the time the struggle on this head and arm choke is like where people they tend to like drive forward too much. They tend to make too much pressure in the jaw and the face, and it sucks, but if you're tough, you're just going to tough that out. It's almost like TPing through somebody's face, and it's not about that at all.
No, it's not. And I'm going to show a couple of things like I like, and again, from mount, the way I would prioritize it positionally as far as finishing it, you can finish the head and arm choke from Side control. You can finish it from a shin ride, knee on belly type position. You can finish it from mount. You can finish it from bottom guard, even bottom half guard. These are all possible. But in my opinion, mount is the best place to finish it from, and for several different reasons. Mostly because it's controlling his hip line, it's controlling his ability to bridge, twist, turn, shrimp, anything like that. So I think that's one of the most valuable positions that we can do it from. So I'm going to do some similar things to what Jeremy was talking about. Now, a couple of things that I think about maybe a little differently, but it doesn't make it better or worse or anything else, is that whenever we get here, and again, I'm walking this up, I like the idea, I like the concept of that walk, paw. I think about the spider crawl, and then I think about wedge, spider crawl, wedge, until I can get my fingers into that armpit. A good landmark that I think about is whenever we're here like this, I want to try to get my hand as deep under his shoulder blade as possible. So I try to put my wrist under his shoulder blade right here. Now, as far as getting my head to the outside, what common problem that people run into is from here, they know they want to get their head to the outside of the arm, so when they go to do it, they do this, and his arm just follows. The problem is I was moving here. So I like to use landmarks in my own body. I think about putting my chin on my own bicep right here, right? So whenever that happens now, I'm gonna put my chin here, and then I use what my fiance refers to as the puppy nuzzle. The puppy nuzzle is where you do this, and you just wedge down the arm that way. Now, here's the thing. I'm not just trying to get my shoulder under his jawline. Obviously, that's where it has to go, but I'm thinking about going deeper. I want to take my shoulder to his heart. So I'm going to pull my shoulder as low down as possible here this way. So similar to what Jeremy was talking about, how he was taking his head between his legs, I'm trying to get my head down like that, but I'm also trying to get my shoulder to his chest. And then we're going to melt off to that left side, turn and face him here this way, squeeze, and then hopefully get the tap that way. It should be pretty miserable, yeah? Mm-hmm. Now, if you need the help, so you notice like I just kept this arm posted out to the side. If you need the help, then at that point, you can come in and connect the two hands here, again to the outside. We're both of us are saying something similar in certain regards, as far as bringing the chin over toward the temple. This way, what that does is it keeps the arm in the right orientation around his, closer to his neck. If he takes his arm above his head, it actually gives him kind of a little bit more breathability down here sometimes, so we don't want that necessarily. So using the chin and taking your chin toward his temple like that, then melting off to the side, especially with that low hand, that can really get it good. Then you can sprawl out on that left side. Now, again, if you need to connect the hands, fine. If you need to push manually with the shoulder, that's also fine. Now, let's talk about a couple of troubleshooting things. What do people do in defense to this? One of the common old school things is answering the phone. Not a real thing. It shouldn't be. If you got a decent head and arm choke, this should not stop it, in my opinion. But a couple of things. One, just have a better head and arm choke, and you'll still get it. But people will still try this. If this is actually giving you defensive trouble and he is stopping the reason he's doing this and the reason this is somewhat successful is because he's creating this pocket that allows blood flow on that side of his neck. I've got the other side shut off. I've got my arm behind his head here, and so I'm doing pretty good, but he created this little pocket of blood flow. So if I need to, again, should just have a better head arm choke, but I can manually plug what he just opened with my fist. I'm gonna put my fist inside there this way here, and then modify my head and arm choke with a punch choke, right? Lower percentage stuff that people like because it looks cool from here. You can hang the phone up. Hanging up the phone is where I try to take his forearm behind my head this way. Shouldn't go, right? Even lower percentage, but again, people like it, is the wrist lock right here, where I put his hand on the ground and I put his elbow on my throat and get the wrist lock that way. Again, I don't put a lot of stock into those, but you know, they're cheeky little tricks more than anything. So you know, they can work if he is giving you defensive problems.
Would you do those movements just to make them give that up and make that and win that space?
Yeah, I think that's probably the best use of it, and that's a great point, right? Because instead of just really putting a lot of stock into finishing, hanging up the phone or the punch choke or whatever, it's going to make them react. They're going to be like, okay, this is a problem. It's a new problem. Obviously, my head and arm defense is not doing this great job. Hanging up the phone is not doing a good job. Then they have to move on and do something else, right? Now, I do think, though, there is a modified way of doing that same kind of concept that is better. So my old judo coach from years and years ago showed me this as a defense to the kata gatame or to the head and arm choke, and I think it's a little more valid. So if Jeremy gets me here and he has me funneled up into this position, even from the mount, it can still work, right? Because again, like mount is better. But if I want to do that, rather than just coming here and hanging up the, or like trying to answer the phone like this, because this, if he's got a decent squeeze, he's still going to beat this, or he's going to do one of those other things that I was talking about. Instead of that, I'm going to make a C-clamp here, and I want to put that into the wedge of his elbow this way. When I do that instead, now my other hand here is going to pull my elbow down this direction. Now when he goes to try to finish the head and arm, structurally, it's almost impossible. He'd have to break some bones in my arm to finish the choke now. Now, of course, this is just plugging the hole in the dam. This is just a Band-Aid. This is not an active defense. So I'm hoping that at this point he switches off to something else. Or at very minimum, maybe I can start scraping and looking to start escaping the position and then getting to a place where I can alleviate more pressure and then start to escape. But this is not an escape video. This is more of a finishing details, troubleshooting for the head and arm choke. And so that's, I think, a more beneficial thing. I do have other videos on how to defend against the head and arm choke. In fact, I actually have a whole instructional from BJJ Fanatics called Deconstructing for Defense, where Jared Jessup and I like go through a lot of head and arm chokes and different styles of guillotines, rear nakeds, everything else, and teach you not only defenses to them, but how to construct the defenses by deconstructing and reverse engineering the position. So it's more like teaching you how to think about it. So key takeaways for the kata gatame or the head and arm choke, I think, is, you know, getting the arm and the head funneled up, getting the right orientation of the arm. Like you were talking about taking space away, creating space. What were you saying on that?
So, I mean, generally, you know, on most chokes, you want to take away all the space before you start squeezing. So, especially in this one, at least for me, I want to get every little bit pushed into that elbow that I'm driving into, try to take away all the space, and then I'll give it a little gentle squeeze. If I feel like I can cook them there, I'll cook them there. If I feel like the choke's really not going to be there, then it would be where I go locked hands, wide elbow, and then I go pressure on my hip and everything towards that lock, and then I can squeeze everything together instead of it just being like just a little bit of bicep pressure into it, you know?
Yeah. I think some of the best head and arm chokes I've ever felt on my end, it actually wasn't even about squeezing. Like it felt like a squeeze, but what the person was really doing, it was all structural. Yeah. So I think the more structural that you can make the choke, and what I mean by that is more bones rather than muscles. So if you feel like you're actively squeezing and it's not really getting the job done, don't burn yourself out. Adjust the position, try to get into a more structurally sound position, taking that space away, and then cooking the person longer. And I think that that's a really important thing too. The head and arm choke, this orientation especially, is not something you're gonna get a really fast, immediate tap. You're gonna have to cook most people there for a few seconds at least. I really enjoy the way that Jeremy showed his details. I've got a couple of things that I'm taking away because I'm creating this Frankenstein model of a head and arm choke, and one day it's gonna be so good. And by stealing details from this guy and from a lot of other really great people that I train with, and my own little special sauce on it too. So thank you guys. I hope this is helpful for your head and arm choke. If you have other questions, leave them in the comments. I'll try to address them with either other videos or try to address your comment directly. Jeremy Bird, I appreciate it. If you are in Ocala, Florida, this is the place to train, the Burdhouse. 2 locations now.
2 locations.
That's crazy. All kinds of people that train here. He's got a great stable of fighters, but it's also welcoming to all levels. So it's not something you have to walk into this gym and be intimidated because it's like a fighter stable. It does accommodate that, but it also accommodates people from all levels, from all walks of life, abilities and disabilities, and that's what I'm really proud to see what this guy has accomplished over these years. It really makes me bubble up with pride because I know how it was whenever we started together and we used to train and we used to stay after class, and he was so enthusiastic about it. So to see what all he's accomplished and what all he's built, that is absolutely fantastic to me. So PSF Ocala, Pedigo Submission Fighting Ocala, the Burdhouse, Jeremy Bird. That's where you need to train in Ocala, Florida. Appreciate you guys watching this video. Hope it helped. Keep watching Night Jiu-Jitsu channel. Like, subscribe, share, do all the things. Thanks again.